which is the rent over here, amounting to so and so rupees per month to the lessor starting from the effective date. The lessee shall have to make the payment of this rent by so and so day of the calendar month. So this clause is similar to the one we did in lease and license agreement. Over there, we use the term fee, license fee. Over here, we are using the term rent. When the rent shall be paid to the lessor via so and so modes. Then we have included the mode of payment. Thereafter, in case of any delay payment, the lessor shall provide the lessee after a notice of grace period to pay the rent. In case the delay in payment of rent continues beyond the grace period, how many of you know the concept of grace period? This is new. This is a new clause I have inserted over here. What is grace period?
Ma'am, I think like giving extra time after the expiration of the term mentioned.
Yes, right. Absolutely right, Ojasvi. So grace period is an extra time which we give over which he shall not be liable for any penalty. So in case of any delay in making payment of rent beyond the due date, the lessor shall provide the lessee after a notice of grace period of 7 days to pay the rent. The lessor shall provide the lessee a notice after the expiry of the grace period of 7 days. Okay. So here I have included that the lessor here is first obligated to wait till the end of the grace period. Suppose we have inserted a clause which says that the lessee is liable to pay the rent by 10th day of each calendar month. So for example, 10th of June becomes the due date. Thereafter, the lessor will send a notice to lessee to pay rent after waiting for further period of 7 days. So he'll send a notice to lessee on 17th or after 17th day of each calendar month to pay the rent. Okay. In case the delay in payment of rent continues beyond the grace period, then the lessee shall be liable to pay the rent with penalty of rupees 100 per delay day of the rent starting from the expiry of the grace period provided by the lessor to him. Got the point of less grace period? So grace period is an additional period which will not include the penalty. Okay. The rent shall be liable for an escalation of 10% after every 11 months and will be as follows. So, usually in lease agreement, we increase the rent by some percentage every year. After every 11 months, we increase the rent. A lesser increases the rent of the property by certain percentage. So, this clause specifically incorporates that the rent shall be liable for an escalation of 10% after every 11 months and will be as follows. For 11 months, that is from 1st June to this. Let's make this 2024 and this is 2023. Rupees 1000 only, and for the next 11 months, that is from May 2024 to April 2025, rupees 10,000 plus 10% interest on 10,000 and so on. Okay, getting my point? Any doubt?
Ma'am, that in the above clause, that 100 per delay days, like per day delay, that means the same, right?
Yes, per day delay.
Yeah.
Suppose your grace period ends on 17th. Okay, So till 17th, let me let me clarify this. Your due date is 10th of June, right?
Yes.
Grace period is granted till 17th of June because it is a grace period of 7 days. And suppose if you fail to pay the rent till 17th of June, then from 18th of then if you're paying rent on 18th of June, you will be liable to pay 10,000 plus 100. Okay. Similarly, if you're
Got
paying this on 20th of June, then you will be liable to pay 10,000 plus
plus 300.
300, right? So this is the penalty.
Got it. Ma'am, and how do we decide the grace period? Like, does it depend upon the lesser to say, like, I will provide only this much of grace period or something?
Yes, yes, completely upon the lesser. Even we can remove the grace period. It can be a clause which says that after the due date, you shall be liable to pay a penalty of so and so percent or so and so rupees per day. It can be per day, per month, or like uh, so and so interest per day, or so and so rupees per day. Anything depends completely. It's subjective and it depends completely upon the discretion of the parties. I'm just giving an example. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Then notice. The notice required to be given under this agreement shall be in writing and be delivered personally or through any authorized agent. So this is a very normal clause which we use in each and every agreement, that how to deliver the notices if there is any thing which needs to be notified to the other party. Okay. Then breach of terms of agreement. In case the terms of this agreements are breached, the party who suffers by such breach shall be entitled to receive from the other party who has broken the terms, or it's better to write breach, who has breached the terms of the agreement, the compensation for any loss or damage caused to him or her thereby, which naturally arose in course of things from such breach, or which the party knew when they entered into this agreement to be likely to result from such breach. Okay. So what will happen in case of breach of this agreement? The party who is committing the breach shall be liable to pay the compensation for the loss or the damage occurred to the other party. Such compensation shall not be given for any remote or indirect losses or damage sustained by the reason of the breach. Okay. Then here are some boilerplate clauses. Governing law. What will be the governing law? If you are entering into this agreement and if the property is in India, then the laws of India will prevail and the parties are subject to the jurisdiction of Delhi courts because the property is in Delhi. Then jurisdiction, again the jurisdiction of Delhi courts and Delhi tribunals will be there because the property is in Delhi. Cause of action will arise in Delhi. Then we have a dispute resolution clause, which we have already discussed. You can just go through the clause. Now let's switch to commercial lease agreement. Any doubt till here? Any doubt?
No one.
Ma'am, in the payment area, ma'am, in the payment clause,
Yes.
ma'am, we were paying a yearly or monthly rent. Ma'am, there are certain properties that are leased at once for several years.
Right.
Ma'am, in that, we don't pay monthly or yearly rent. So, ma'am, how will we write that particular clause?
So suppose we are mm, let me. So suppose we are putting a property on lease for 10 years and we agree with the party, with the lessee, for the payment in 3 installments. Suppose. So the lesser hereby agrees to give the premises on lease to the lessee for a term as agreed on the fixed price of rupees. Suppose this is 25 lakhs. Okay. This fixed rent. So we'll define this as a fixed rent. This fixed rent shall be paid by the lessee in the following manner. First installment of 25% of the fixed rent at on the date of execution of the agreement. Second installment of 50% of the fixed rent on the date of his shifting to the premises, or it can be like after a month of his shifting to the premises. And then the third installment of the remaining 25% after 6 months or after an year, or after suppose if the term of lease is for the term of 6 years. Okay, so after 3 years, that is the half term. Okay, so this is all very subjective to what the parties agree to and how the parties wants to go into the agreement, what are their pocket allowances, and so on. So this is very subjective, but in such a case, if you are agreeing to shift on a premise for a fixed term or for a particular rent, then you can have a clause similar to this. Okay, getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Who raised this query? Animesh. Okay. So now this is commercial lease agreement. A commercial lease agreement, this is again an introductory clause. So and so company, lesser, lessee, same parties. Then let's go through the recital. The lessor is the owner of a shopping mall named so and so, located in a busy location in Parel, Mumbai. The lessor, in order to put on lease one of his vacant office on the third floor of the Maitri Mall premises to the lessee, offers lessee for the lease. The lessee is a company situated in Navi Mumbai, which has a business of marketing and selling furniture. This is marketing and selling furniture and other home accessories, accepts this offer and puts forth certain conditions for renovation. In pursuant of the same, the parties agree to enter into this agreement to get the terms in writing. Okay. Now the parties hereby agree as follows. First is the grant of lease. The lessor hereby grants and confirms to give the premises on lease to the lessee based on the terms and conditions mentioned here in this agreement. The lessee shall be granted, the lease shall be granted only for the commercial purpose. That is only to operate its business and not other use of the premises, and no other use of the premises is permitted. Okay. So as this is a commercial agreement, terms will be according to the commercial agreement. All the taxes, all the electricity and everything will be accordingly. So we are not allowed to use the premises for any other purpose apart from the commercial purpose. Okay. Then what are the obligations of lessee? So obligations is basically the responsibilities, duties of lessee. The lessee is under an obligation to pay rent on time. The lessee is under an obligation to abide by the rules and regulations of the laws for the time being in force and the term of this agreement. The lessee is under an obligation to use the premises only for the purpose for which the lease is granted. The lessee is under an obligation to maintain the premises in a proper condition except for normal wear and tear. The lessee is under an obligation to use the premises strictly for the purposes granted and no activity against the law or as forbidden by the law shall be allowed. Okay. So these are some basic responsibilities, duties, obligations of a lessee. Then now let us see what are the obligations of lessor. The lessor is under strict obligation to not do any act or conduct to disturb the occupation of the lessee. The lessor is under an obligation, if in case do any sale, mortgage, creation of charge of the premises, shall affirm to maintain the occupation of the lessee during the term of this agreement. The lessor shall be under an obligation to pay the property tax related to the premises. Any doubt till here? Any clause you want to discuss?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now moving on to the payment clause in commercial lease agreement. The lessee shall pay a basic rent, which we have defined as rent, amounting to rupees 10 lakh only per month to a lessor starting from the effective date. The lessee shall have to make a payment of this rent on so and so day of every calendar month, which will be defined as due date. The rent shall be exclusive of all other charges payable, which shall include but not limited to the following. Now, here we have defined this clause because this is a commercial agreement. We know that there will be electricity charges, water charges, maintenance charges, GST, charges for license, if any. Suppose if we are running a wine shop, then we require a separate license for that. Charges for the use of other appliances and services at the premises. Example, if we have a lift, if we have an escalator, if you are using a parking area, if you are using a rooftop or basement, etc. The rent shall be paid to the lessor via so and so mode. The rent shall be paid to the lessor, but other charges payment may be made to the authority lessor as directed by the lessor. Now, suppose we are not including electricity charges in the rent. So, it is the discretion of the lessor to either charge you the electricity charges or ask you to pay the electricity charges directly to the electricity board. Okay, similarly with the water charges, similarly with the license charges. He may either take the license fee from you and deposit it with the authority, or he may ask you directly to pay the same to the authority. Okay. In case you have any doubt, just raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Okay. In case of any delay in payment, so this is similarly drafted as the one we have discussed in residential lease agreement. We have a grace period of 7 days and then we have a penalty clause. Here, because it is a commercial lease agreement, I have increased the amount of penalty. The rent shall be liable for an escalation of 5% after every 12 months and will be as follows. Here also we are using the escalation for first 12 months. Again, we can make this as 23 and 24. And 24 to 25. This is also similar to that clause of escalation. In the event there is slowdown of business in the next few months, then the lessor shall be liable to provide an extra 1 month, 30 days time after the due date to the lessee as grace period after getting or having investigated the books of account of lessee as evidence. So now this clause is favorable. Suppose you are drafting this agreement for the lessee. So you can have this clause. This will be beneficial for a lessee because in a business there are chances that you may face a slowdown in business and you are unable to pay the rent on time. Then you can use this clause. You can inform the lessor that, sir, there is a slowdown in my business and I need a grace period of further 1 month. And then he can provide you a grace period of further 1 month without the attraction of any penalty. Getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then comes lock-in period. Tell me what is lock-in period. What do you understand by a lock-in period? This is again a new term. What do you understand by lock-in period?
Ma'am, I think like maybe by the time within which the lessee needs to confirm to the lessor about if he wants to take the possession of that land or not.
No, no. So I'll tell you, lock-in period is the period in which you are obliged to stay within the premises. Suppose I have taken your premises. Suppose I have taken Ojasvi's premises on lease. Okay. So there are clauses in the agreement which says that you can terminate the agreement by giving so and so day notice period, 15 days notice period. Okay. So lock-in period is the period in which you are not even allowed to terminate this agreement even if you are giving a notice period. Suppose we have a lock-in period of 6 months, then I will be obliged to stay in that premises for 6 months, and Ojasvi is obliged to let me stay in that premises for 6 months. Neither Ojasvi can ask me to leave the premises prior to 6 months, nor I can ask Ojasvi to just let me go prior to that expiry of 6 months. Okay. Lock-in period is basically a term which is used in agreements so that it does not hampers either the interest of lessor who has granted his property on lease, nor the interest of lessee who has shifted all its material to the lessee to the lessor's premises. Getting my point?
Ma'am, what if the lessee dies? Then what will
In
happen?
case of death, that is different thing. Okay, that is a different scenario. If someone dies, then nothing can be done. Either his legal heirs will come into picture for the payment of that lock-in period, or if they have this understanding, if the lessor and the lessee have a bit of mutual understanding, nothing will happen. The lease will automatically come to an end. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Or in case he wants to sue the lessor, then he can do so by via his legal heirs. Okay. But that term of lesser defined above then should include the legal heirs also. Okay.
Got it. Got it.
Yes. This agreement shall come into an effect from 1st of May 2024 effective date and shall continue for at least 36 months. Okay, this is the term. This agreement can be renewed after the expiry of the term for a period of 2 years by mutual consent by providing notice to the other party. Lock-in period for this agreement shall be 24 months and no party shall be allowed to terminate this agreement within this lock-in period. Okay, getting my point? That during this
Yes.
lock-in period, neither the lessee is allowed to terminate this agreement nor the lessor is allowed to terminate this agreement. In case the lessor terminates the agreement before the expiry of lock-in period, the lessee shall be liable to get the security deposit refunded immediately, provided that no damage to the premises is done by the lessee during the period of use. So this is just an example. Okay, what if the lessor terminates the agreement before the expiry of the lock-in period? Then the lessee shall be liable to get whatever she or he has deposited as a security deposit. Or we can have an interest also here, that the lessee shall be shall be entitled. Liable is not the right word. Shall be entitled to get the security deposit along with 1 month, along with a penalty equivalent to 1 month's rent. Okay, refunded immediately, provided that no damage to the property is done. And if in case the lessee terminates the agreement before the expiry of lock-in period, then he shall be liable to pay the lesser complete payment of 24 months. Okay, getting my point? Any doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then comes the consequences for termination. Again, the same consequences may follow, that upon the expiry of the term of this agreement or the earlier termination, the lessee shall, within a period of so and so date, hand over the vacant possession and peaceful possession of the premises to the lessor in a similar condition. If there is a normal wear and tear, then nothing happens. If there is any major destruction or damage caused to the property, then that shall be cut off from the security deposit which the lessee has deposited in the beginning. The lessor shall return the security deposit after the expiry of term within so and so days to the lessee. What are the remedies? We have already discussed. Now let's discuss maintenance and other charges. The lessee shall be liable to pay the charges of maintenance and repair monthly to the lessor or to the authority as directed by the lessor on so and so day, and the grace period in case of each shall be the same as laid down in the clause above. The rent is exclusive of maintenance and repair charges, which we have already discussed. If in case any damage is caused to the premises by the lessee during the term of this agreement, the lessor shall have the right to deduct the charges for such damage from the security deposit amount, which we have also already discussed. Okay. So this is about the lease agreement. If you have any doubt, we can discuss. We can go through that clause again. Apart from these clauses, we can have number of other clauses depending upon what the party wants from the other party. Okay, these agreements are subjective and clauses depends upon what a party is expecting through their transaction. Any doubt? Anything you want to discuss?
Good evening, ma'am. This is Paras.
Yes, Paras.
And can you explain page 1 and 2 again?
1 and 2, like residential lease agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, first of all, we have a normal introductory clause which states the execution date. This residential lease agreement, herein defined as agreement, is executed on so and so date, which we have termed as execution date, on so and so place by and between party A, who is the lessor, and party B, who is the lessee. Now, lessor is the one who is granting the property on lease, and lessee is the one who is acquiring the property on lease. Now, the lessor and the lessee shall be referred to as party individually and as parties collectively. Now, there is this recital clause. The lessor is the owner of a three-storied building located at so and so place, and due to some personal reason, he wants to put this premises on lease. The lessee is the head of a reputed family and was looking for a three-storied residential building in Delhi, as they have recently shifted to Delhi for some business purpose. In pursuant of the same, the lessor has approached the lessee to enter into this agreement. Now comes the ownership. Lessor transfer all the rights and interest to the lessee of the premises for the term as defined in clause 2, clause 3, excluding the ownership right. Now, apart from the ownership right, every other right and interest in the property or the premises shall be transferred to the lessee, but ownership of the property shall remain with the lessor. The lessor shall not have the right to sublease any part of the premises to the third party without taking prior consent of the lessee, and vice versa. So, in case the lessor who has already subleased a property or a part of premises to the lessee, he cannot sublet or give any other portion of that premises to the other party without taking prior consent of the lessee. Similarly, with the lessee, once the lessee have already taken a premises on lease, and if he wants to further grant it to someone on lease, on sublease, he has to take the prior consent of the lessor to do so. Okay, it's always preferable to have these consents in writing. Then grant of lease. The lessor hereby grants and confirms to give the premises on lease to the lessee based on the terms and conditions of this agreement. Term, we have already discussed in commercial lease that the term shall be so and so years starting from the execution date. All the tenancy rights and interests can be availed by the lessee from the date of the start of this agreement till the expiry of this agreement. Okay, then comes the renewal. If suppose after the expiry of the term of this agreement, lessee wants to extend his stay or wants to remain in the premises, he can do so by prior notification to the lessor. He can notify the lessor at least a month prior that, sir, see, I want to stay in this premises and can we please renew this agreement? And if the lessor agrees to the same, then we can have the renewal of this agreement in writing, and we can accordingly extend the term of this agreement. Then comes the payment clause, which we have already discussed in the commercial lease agreement, that there will be a basic rent which will start from the effective date, which has to be paid on so and so date of the agreement, which will be defined as the due date by so and so mode. Okay, any other thing? Paras, any other thing you want to discuss?
No, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. So let's move on to the other agreement, which is consultancy agreement. Now, first tell me, what do you understand by consulting agreements or the consultancy agreements? Class, what do you understand by the consultancy agreement? Anyone? Give it a try.
Ma'am, consultancy agreement is kind of the service agreement where the person, those who are having expertise in certain things, they give a consultancy to the certain person.
Perfect. Yeah.
Ma'am,
That's yes, Ojasvi.
a consultancy agreement is like when a client approaches a consultancy to like fight for his case. So this agreement makes that consultancy legally binding to go forward and do the service for the client.
So what you are saying is a particular type of consultancy which we say as legal consultancy. Okay.
Okay.
But consultancy is basically a kind of service which an expert is providing to his or her client. And for that, we are entering into the consultancy agreement. Consultants are basically the expert in a particular field, be that may IT, be that may GST, be that may HR, any field, be that may legal. So there can be legal consultants, there can be IT consultants, there can be GST consultants, there can be marketing consultants. So anyone who is expert in his or her own field is a consultant. And when a client approaches that person to take his services, it's preferable to enter into an agreement which is known as consultancy agreement. Okay. So give me a second. Give me a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's go through it. What is consulting agreement? A consulting agreement is a contractual document that describes a working relationship between a business and a consultant, providing that the company with their services. Other terms that can be used to refer such kind of agreement are business consulting agreement, independent contractor agreement, or a freelance contract. Freelance consulting agreement. So what is the difference between these three? Anyone? Business consulting agreement, independent contractor agreement, and freelance consulting agreement. When will we enter into a business consulting agreement?
When there could be a consultation with a person who's expertised in that particular field of business for some advice or some other purpose.
Okay, that can be. Business consulting agreement usually is the term when we use, suppose we are law students. So everyone must have heard about JSA, Jyoti Sagar, right? So if we are entering into an agreement with Jyoti Sagar, then because that is a firm, we'll say business consulting agreement. If we are going and consulting that Jyoti Sagar, then we'll enter into a business consulting agreement, because we are not entering into this agreement with a specific person, but with a business entity. Okay. Then there comes independent contractor agreement, when we are entering into an agreement with a person who is working independently. Then there comes freelance, when we are entering into this consulting agreement with a freelancer who is working and giving his advices and services on a freelance basis. Okay, the consulting agreement explains the term of the profession. Explain the terms of the professional relationship as a method for keeping both parties accountable when it comes to a type of work and compensation expected. Having a consulting agreement when contracting the services of an outside advisor or specialist is a standard part of running a business and helps protect your company from possible disputes. When we use consulting agreement, we have already discussed this. What are the benefits of using a consulting agreement? It sets clear expectations for quality, what we are expecting from a consultant, what are the timelines in which we want our tasks to be completed, establishing professional policies, holding contractors accountable, agreeing on a specific budget, documenting your business relationship and expenses. Okay. Then what are the types of consultant? A consultant is an outside professional who provides expertise and advice to improve a business operation in some way. They analyze current business behavior, identify areas of improvement, and develop a plan for improving that aspect of a company. Consultants may also train other staff and oversee the implementation of new business tactics, evaluating the outcome and making adjustments as needed. Consultants often specialize in a niche area of their market, using each business opportunity to build their expertise and apply it to improve the best practices. Some of different types of consultants you can hire to work for your business are IT consultants. Businesses hire IT consultants to help optimize their tech support, internal networking, software, and web development. Then there comes operations consultants. These specialists focus on your company manufacturing and supply chain efficiency. Then financial consultants. Consultants can also analyze company finances and find ways to pay down debt, cut costs, increase profits, and make investment plans for long-term growth and financial health of the company. Then legal consultants, hiring a legal expert to consult on contracts and other legal situations, help protect your business from liability and gives you technical perspective on your business. Okay. They can be a digital marketing consultant or an SEO, social media consultant, affiliate marketing consultants, GST consultants, and so on. Any doubt? Any
No,
doubt?
ma'am.
Okay. Let me just go on to the word. Yes. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So first comes the effective date and the introduction. This consultancy agreement is made and executed at place on this so and so date of January 2024 and shall be effective from so and so date, which will be effective date. By and between so and so person who is referred as consultant and the other party, which is the client, hereinafter referred to individually as party and collectively as parties. Let's go through the recital clause to understand what are we exactly looking for in this agreement. The consultant is an expert in the fields of goods and services tax, GST, and is engaged in the business of providing consultancy services to other individuals and businesses, helping them to comply with the GST regulations, file GST returns, and manage their GST related finances. Based on the representations made by the consultants as to its qualifications, expertise, and experience to perform the work and services, more specifically specified and written down in Annexure 1. So I have defined whatever the scope of work is of the consultants in Annexure 1 below. The client has shown its willingness to engage the consultant for performing the work to be done as mentioned in Annexure 1. The consultant has acquainted itself for the scope of work and requirement of the client and has agreed to render its professional consultancy services to the client upon the terms and conditions herein recorded. Any doubt? What do you understand? What are you getting from this recital clause? What is this agreement about?
Ma'am, I think the client has consulted the consultancy regarding managing his or her GST, uh, like filing it, regulating it, or something.
Yes, yes, correct. So here the client has approached an expert who is an expert in the field of GST and who will look after and manage all of his GST regulations like filing of returns and other finances related to GST. Okay. So let's go to the Annexure 1 first to see what is the scope of work. Consultant will perform the following duties, functions, roles, and render these services as under. Can anyone tell me why have I included this as Annexure 1? Anyone?
Ma'am, maybe to clarify as to what all the expert is like, what all areas the expert has an expertise in, and like what the client should expect from the expert.
Ma'am, the what work or the means particular work which will be provided by the this person who is giving the GST consultancy.
So sorry, there was some network issue. Uh, Let me know till where have you followed.
Ma'am, you were asking why was annexure 1 mentioned?
Right. So basically, annexure 1 over here is mentioned only to clarify and not to mess up the entire agreement. We can have a separate annexures to define separate terms and separate when we want to define something very comprehensively, it is always preferable to include that as an annexure. So that's the reason we have a annexure, because there are n number of duties and roles which the consultant needs to perform. So I have included it as an annexure. Okay. So let's continue with this agreement in the next class. We'll go through the clauses of this agreement in the next class because they are comprehensive and I want to deal each and every clause in a very nice manner. Or if you want, we can discuss one or two clauses and then wind up the class. Whatever you prefer. You want me to start with the clauses or you want to deal with this agreement in the next class?
Ma'am, next class.
Okay. Also, I guess only one of you attempted the LinkedIn post or the agreement which I requested you to do on leave and license. Anyone has attempted to draft any agreement, want to share it? I can review that for your benefit, for your interest.
Can we share it with you by this week?
Yes, you can even share it during the class. We can have a 15-minute session in the end where you can share your screen and I can go through each and every clause and we can work on that simultaneously. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Because it is difficult for me to go
Okay, ma'am.
through the documents during the weekdays because I have my courts as well. So it's better if we'll keep the next class 15 minutes or half an hour for the discussion. You guys can draft any agreement, be that be a license agreement, lease agreement, or any other agreement of your choice, and I can review that and we can have the clauses discussed simultaneously. Okay? For any other queries, you can drop me a message on my WhatsApp number, which I have already shared. Okay, let's wind up this class. Thank you so much.
Anybody have any query you can ask?
Thank you, ma'am.
Also, I'd request you, whosoever is posting on the LinkedIn, please don't reshare the agreement as it is. I came across one of the students' post who has shared the agreement as it is on the LinkedIn. Guys, this is not the way you should work. You all are to be lawyers, so you know about the copyright things. Though this agreement is not having any copyright, but still it's better to modify the clauses a bit. It's always preferable to write it in your own language. This will help you only. So I expect that from next time onwards, you will try to incorporate your own changes and then share it on any of the social media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Paras.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. I can't join. I have some network issue at that time.
It's fine, Paras. It's fine.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the session. We will meet again in the next week. Thank you so much. Have a good day.